In 2001, when I finished Final Fantasy X for the first time in my life, I was left empty because there hasn't been a single turn-based game that hit me as much as that game. Some got very close, but they often missed in one thing or two that held them back. Because studios abandon the style, and even when they do make them, they just half-ass the process, and I just can't help but feel like they're making them nowadays to act as a shell, to remind us of what they used to be, with no soul. Until some passionate person who probably felt like I did and the other tons of turn-based fans who was let down by these biggest studios, he decided to make his own game, a game that will make an impact and leave an impression on these fans. Basically, let's call it It's This Age Final Fantasy X, a genre-defining game that will stick to us in our lives just like a canvas in a museum that you will keep looking at and appreciate how much of a masterpiece this game is, even years and decades later. This is how Clair Obscur Expedition 33 was born, and today I'll be talking about this game not as a form of review, but as a way to communicate to my fellow turn-based fans about how important this game is, especially in this age where every game have to appeal to a shareholder or suits that want nothing but the few dollars that we have in our pockets. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 has a very intriguing story with a twist that had me hooked the minute I heard about it. You have the main villain called the Paintress, and every year she paints a number on the monolith. That number gets reduced by 1 each year, and whoever turns to that age dies, not allowing any human to age past that. The game opens up with the protagonist's love interest reaching that number and dying, which sets the premise of the story right away. The settings of this game is just so unique that it made me feel like I'm gaming for the first time in my life, with not being able to guess any of the coming twists or what is to come in its events, with a main cast that is very charming, led by Gustav and his foster sister Mael. The relationship and bonds between these characters is so well written that I haven't seen anything like it outside of games like Nier or Final Fantasy at their best. The side staff is also one of the best you could ask for in an RPG. Everyone comes with their unique personality and quirks. Some are not even human, which added much more depth to the party. In general, the cast is just perfectly written with how each one of them deals with their inner demons and have their own motivations to go after the Paintress. Lune, for example, acts as the older sister of the party, despite being the same age as Gustav, but she's the wise one who is always here to slap some sense to her friends and always protects them from their darkest thoughts. That is but a small example of how these characters flow together. What I appreciated the most is with how, despite the game's dark tone, it has a lot of light moments that help solidifying the basis of these characters, which made me feel like they are way more multi-layered than a lot of JRPGs that released recently. Because my biggest worry was having a game that has one tone and it goes with it forever, but this game is gladly not like that at all. It have a lot of jokes between the characters and light-hearted characters that legit warms your heart, like SK, my favorite boy. Well, this game broke my heart and made me tear up a lot of times. This boy right here was here to comfort us all the time. A good story is not without its villains, but let's not spoil them and instead stick with saying their story is not made of an achromatic painting. They are complex and have a lot more going on with them than just simply black and white, which made them my favorite villains since a distant memory. So, how does the gameplay accompany this good lore and story? The gameplay of a Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is the best I have ever experienced in any turn-based game. We often hear about turn-based games made by indie studios that pay homage to the classic games that inspired them. For Clair Obscur, it borrowed what made those games that came before it special, and innovated on it. It took the turn-based gameplay to the next level, a level I never expected to be achieved since I thought peak has been reached way back in 2001. You have a turn system that plays similar to Final Fantasy X, where you can see the timeline on the left and choose your skills wisely. The twist here is that even when it's not your turn, you are still able to react to the enemy's incoming attacks by dodging or parrying, which makes the combat system all more satisfying since you are required to know your enemies' not only weaknesses, but also their moves so you can defend against them. The game doesn't have a traditional MP system, system, but instead it has something called AP, which acts similar to the ATB gauge in Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth. AP is consumed by using skills, items, or your projectile attacks. I absolutely love the projectiles implementation since it allows you to shoot the enemy's weaknesses or even their bombs if they are holding one to detonate it and cause damage to the surrounding enemies. At the first glimpse, I thought this game was juggling a lot of aspects at once without thinking, but once I understood its systems, I noticed everything was put for a purpose and will reward you for using all these elements. It allowed them to get very creative with the enemy fights and especially the boss fights, with some of them feel like you're dancing with them. The camera sometimes freak out and stops you from seeing what's coming your way though, and the result you will get hit a lot, but that is just a minor problem since it doesn't happen often and only during some encounters, but I thought it would be worth mentioning though. This game also brought something very famous in Western RPGs, which is the freedom to build your characters. The amount of options you have to customize them are pretty big and will make you play those characters the way you see fit. If you wanted, you could build your characters entirely for solo combat by equipping solo Pictos on them. Pictos are the accessories in this game, but if you have them equipped for a long time, you will master their abilities and you will be able to equip the Pictos abilities without the need of equipping the Pictos themselves, which allows for an insane amount of builds. You can have your way with your characters basically. Each character has an exclusive mechanic that differentiates their gameplay quite a bit from the others. For example, Mael has the stances mechanic where each stance offers something different. Monoko is basically the blue mage of this game. He can transform into other monsters by collecting their feet. Yes, you heard that right. It is a combat system that brought the best of both worlds, the goodness of JRPG turn-based, and the amount of customizations we see in Western RPGs. Customization doesn't only apply on combat, but also for cosmetics that appeal to different kind of tastes. Some are cool looking and legit enhances your experience. Or if you want to be casual about it and run around wearing swimsuits, that is also available for you. These customs, among other things, can be obtained by exploring. Exploration in Clair Obscur is one of the most pleasant and surprising experiences I've ever had this generation. The amount of secrets the levels has is insane, and no matter where you look at, you will find something hidden. It has some sort of Metroidvania vibes to it, where once you unlock certain abilities, you'll be able to access to newer areas, like breaking the blue rocks and more. And of course, one of the main selling points of this game is the overworld map. The areas of this game are connected through the overworld, and it is also full of secrets that are as many as the PS1 era Final Fantasies, where you will run into optional caves, super bosses, and even hidden beaches that has mini games in them. The side and post-game content of Clair Obscur is not there for the sake of adding more hours to your in-game clock, but it adds so much more context to the main story. Most of what you do there has a lore and explanation of why it exists, without spoiling much. At first, the ending confused me a bit, until I did a certain side quest that shed so much light on that confusing aspect, which blew my absolute mind. And yes, of course, the super difficult bosses are also connected to the story, which added more value to overcome these challenges. Unfortunately though, there is no way for you to track the things you have and haven't finished in the game. There are tons of secrets and collectibles, but there is no way for you to track them, which made achieving 100% a nightmare for completionists. Clair Obscur is not a AAA game made by a few hundred people, but the level of its fidelity is something worth praising. It is not carried by its high technical achievements, but instead, it put heavy emphasis on its art direction, which made it visually appealing. With its stunning high fantasy setting and breathtaking environments that often made me stop and take a few screenshots. It made me not care that I can't count the sweat drops the characters has after each battle, or how the holy ray tracing that everyone's obsessed with reflecting on the shiny floors. It runs smoothly on the PS5 Pro with a stable 60 FPS and an image quality that is good enough to not ruin the beautiful environments. Because the environment design is perfect and each area has its distinctive features and colors, it made every area memorable, with some of them are gloomy and captures the game's unique and dark nature perfectly. Some areas contrast that and add so much color for a change, which will keep you looking forward to what the next area could be. All that beauty is married with the best and one of the most diverse OSTs I have ever listened to. This video was just a bit of how magical this game can be. A journey that gave me hope in the turn-based games, and it shows when a creator puts heart above anything else. They can remind you of how games are a form of art rather than a form of a product first. It has everything I wanted and more, a unique world and a story that made me cry and laugh. A cast that I fell in love with and sympathize with. A gameplay that I consider the best form of turn-based. So what is there to not love? This game takes an easy 10 out of 10 from me, and I'll leave the rest for you to experience. Thank you so much for watching. Consider supporting me by liking this video and subscribe to this channel since I have tons of coming content for this game. Have a good day.